Of course, a very, very, very big presentation of Creole Heartbeat happening right about now. Fidel Castro 100 in studios is His Excellency Ambassador Leroy Charles, also His Excellency Ambassador Damien Dublin, and Cuban Ambassador to the Commonwealth of Dominica, His Excellency Miguel Fraga. That's streamed live right about now on DBS Radio's Facebook, YouTube channels, of course all DBS Radio's frequencies, and DigiPlay channel 50, and that's happening right about now.
Creole Heartbeat features Fidel Castro 100, the celebration of the 100th anniversary of the birth of the Caribbean giant, the late leader of Cuba, Fidel Castro, on Monday, August 17th at 7 p.m. on DBS Radio. Fidel Castro 100. Special guest, Cuban graduate fresh from attending the celebrations in Havana, Cuba, Dr. Damien Dublin. Special guest of honor, His Excellency Ambassador Miguel Fraga, Cuban Ambassador to Dominica, Fidel Castro 100. A conversation on Cuba's contribution to Dominica and the Caribbean's human resource, the impact and sustainability of the Cuban Scholarship Program, Cuba's role in the liberation of Africa, Cuba's global achievement, and more. Fidel Castro 100. Host Ambassador Leroy Prince Alex Charles, and will also be live on TBS Radio, social media platforms, and Channel 50 on Digicel TV. Fidel Castro 100. A special Creole Heartbeat edition on Monday, August 17th from 7 p.m. You are invited to participate in this historic milestone. Fidel Castro 100. Amachesa.
Castro, Fidel Castro, Castro.
Bonsoir tout le monde, à tout que la Dominique et aux Antilles, c'est un grand plaisir de vous là comme ici. Donc, à dire vraiment tout que la Dominique, c'est un bel petit programme, bel petit bonsoir pour autres. Et nous avons une grande émission là pour autres, cela, monsieur. Nous avons des ambassadeurs pour Cuba, de la Dominique, et aussi pour Costa Rica. Et puis, nous avons poser vraiment une belle émission. Nous avons regardé via Fidel Castro, il était chef, il était président Cuba. Good evening, Dominica. Good evening, Eastern Caribbean. Welcome to another special edition of Creole Heartbeat, and we just want to say good evening to you on our DBS Radio social media platforms, Facebook, also YouTube. We want to say also good evening to you on channel 50 on Digicel TV. Tonight we're going to have a historic night. For the first time, possibly 3 ambassadors in one room, one program, and it's a pleasure to really bring some very important information that you may not be aware of. The other side of Cuba, the other side of the life of a giant, a Caribbean giant, and the works. We may be hearing so much of the Western world and their whole meaning of what transpired, but we're going to be in it from a different angle this evening. We will be expecting your call sometime later, but it gives us great pleasure to welcome live in the studios for this very special program the ambassador for Cuba, for Dominica from Cuba. That's His Excellency Miguel Fraga. Bonsoir, good evening to you.
Bonsoir, good evening. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
And Dr. Damien Dublin, advocate who has been really pushing for this embargo to be lifted. Cuban graduate, part of the Cuban Guild for several years. Also the leader, the president of the Reparations Committee. Good evening to you, Dr. Dublin.
Bonsoir, buenas noches. It's a pleasure to be there. As I say, history in the making on a historic day. So it's a wonderful moment, and we're going to put everything about Cuba, Fidel, into perspective.
Today is also the 139th anniversary of another Caribbean giant, a Caribbean leader.
Yes.
And that's Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Big one.
But so as we get started, we want to once again say good evening to you wherever you are. We want to touch you in a very special way. Welcome to another Creole Heartbeat program, very special edition. And the first up this evening, when we look at Fidel Castro, and we'll start with the ambassador. What are some of your reflections? What sort of leader was he? The humanitarian aspect of Fidel. When you reflect on this giant of a leader throughout the Caribbean, what are some of the reflections that come across to you?
Well, when you ask me that, I have to think that around the world, millions celebrate Fidel Castro. These 100 years, we saw events almost in every country, in every place, even in the United States. So Fidel is present in the life of millions, because he don't only lead the Cuban Revolution. He was a part of the history in many countries. When you talk about Africa and the contribution that Cuba made in the liberation of nations in Africa, when you talk about we send doctors to 165 countries around the world, when you say that we have been involved in the education sector in many countries around the world. So, you travel to many countries and you see people that has been named Fidel because of Fidel Castro. So the presence of Fidel is there. The people celebrate Fidel's legacy, and the people still fight for the same ideas that Fidel fought all his life. That's the first thing crossed to my mind.
And you, Dr. Dubs, you would have been one of the students, or the first or second group of students to move across to Havana to do some studies. What was the whole atmosphere like with so much of the Western philosophy, Western propaganda? What was it like, and possibly under different circumstance in terms of our politics in Dominica? What was it like for you?
It was a tough decision to take. At the time, you're getting a lot of pushback and people saying, boy, Cuba you going, because of the propaganda that was spread. But I firstly would want to pay homage to the first set of Dominicans, the first set of 11, we call them pioneers, who went up in 1979 after Hurricane David. And what it shows is the depth of imagination of Fidel. I mean, after Hurricane, at the non-aligned movement, Fidel, Ruzi, all the progressive guys were there, Maurice Bishop, and they were discussing what assistance they could give, and it was suggested at a time like that they would think of maybe sending money, but Fidel suggested, with the help of Ruzi and the other guys, that scholarships. At that time, you're thinking hurricane destroy a country, you're wondering what would scholarships do, and it shows up to this present time that the idea was a sustainable one to initiate the scholarship, and we've seen the result in the development of Dominica, the building of the human resource. So the first set of guys, 11 set of guys, went up, Panma, Lloydie, and all the rest, Greg's, Alcott. Special big up to all you for opening the door. I went up in 1981. Tremendous experience. And to me, it was just an eye-opener, personally, and new society, understanding it. But just one thing that stood out was just the readily acceptance of the Cuban people and their willingness to help you, guide you, share with you whatever they had. There's a famous saying, they say, mi casa es su casa, which means my house is your house. So
yes,
everybody's house was just open to us. So this is one of the experience that would I'll always remember. While I'm at it, let me just say a big hello to the parents of the students up there. The tremendous work they are from themselves into a grouping. They have been able to send containers to the students of items, and to big up the Guild of Graduates, which has made it mark a name in Dominica. Also the Cuba Friendship Association, which has organized many solidarity messages to keep the whole Cuban concept. And I think it's in spite of all the difficulties Cuba has been going through, they have still been willing to offer scholarship to train our young minds whose parents would not have been able to afford to send them to universities in other parts of the world. So it's a tremendous contribution, and we'll be and should be forever grateful to Cuba and its people. And right now, in their difficulties, we should be more than ready and willing to reciprocate and express that solidarity in whatever way we can.
Recently, I think sometime last week, the celebrations was massive in Havana, Ambassador. The 100th birthday, or the anniversary of the 100th birthday of the late Fidel Castro. It was on the 13th of August.
Yes.
How significant was this? And even tell us, the message from the president of Cuba, the Republic of Cuba presently.
Well, we did a big event. I'm sure that Dr. Dublin is going to comment about that because he was present there. He represents Dominica at the event. But we have more than 900 delegates from all around the world. More than 60 countries came to Havana to celebrate Fidel. And the message of our president was about how the ideas of Fidel are still present, not only in Cuba, because we believe Fidel is not only an example for the Cubans, it's an example for the world. When we talk about important leaders like Nelson Mandela and other big leaders, we have to talk about Fidel too. And when you see Cuba, a small country, a small island in the Caribbean with limited resources, doing so many things and having that presence in the international arena, you need to talk about Fidel. And when we talk about the contribution to the education, yes, you can send money, you can send resources, but if you train human resources, you are going to help better that nation. And for that reason, education was a key aspect of the Cuban Revolution. When the Cuban Revolution triumphed, we have at that time 3 universities in Cuba. Right now we have universities everywhere. And the revolution gave to the people the opportunity to go to the university for free. So all the education, we did a literacy campaign in 1 year. The whole Cuban population learned how to read and write, and that was very important. For that reason, we were able to train professionals, you name it, doctors, architects, lawyers, economists. But we understand, okay, this is something that we don't want to keep only for Cuba. We need to do it for the rest of the world, and for that reason, we offer the scholarships. And when Dr. Dublin said I went to Cuba in 1981, I was 2 years old at the time. I was 2 years old at the time. So you see the history, and now you can talk that we have more than 400 graduates here in Dominica, a very small island in the Caribbean. So how many
and
are...
they're just speaking of Dominica only.
Exactly. Only. So, but right now also we have offered that opportunity to many countries, even the United States. Even the United States, we offer scholarships to students that don't have the opportunity in the United States to go to the university. We have trained hundreds of doctors to serve in the United States, because the only thing that we ask, if you come to Cuba, you receive your training, go back to your country, go back to your community, serve in that place. And we are proud of that. So our president, when in the event, he talked about the ideas of Fidel, why Cuba has succeeded for so many years, because we are talking about more than 60 years of the Cuban Revolution, and we are still there, despite all the pressures, despite all the sanctions, despite that the most powerful country in the world don't want the Cuban Revolution. And we can talk about that later.
A little later, yes. Dr. Damien, Dublin, you actually was at the celebrations. You actually
In person. Not via Zoom.
experienced the celebrations. What was it like?
Well, tremendous, unforgettable experience. I mean, to me, it was like a reconnection. Being there from 81 to 87 and going back. I went back in 2005 when Dr. Toussaint was Minister of Health. So that's almost 20 plus years. And going back this time was like a reconnection. I coined this trip when I took my first trip to Africa, like a reconnection with the ancestors. And on landing, it was just a tremendous experience. Everything was well organized. I mean, buses pick you up to the hotel. And the thing is, I want to mention from the start is like, you hear a lot of stories on Facebook and seeing other things, and you form an impression that is not real of what's really happening in Cuba. We know you're under tremendous pressure. It's what I would call it seems to be an economic strangulation policy for no apparent reason. I mean, most Dominicans know that I've been and part of the guild, and we from the Cuba Friendship Association and the guild have been calling for the removal of that blockade for a long time. So being there, it was a tremendous experience again, seeing the people doing what they have to do, readapting just to survive, but still having that spirit of, yes, we will make it. We will make it. That is one of the mantra that they always say at every speech during the ceremony. The president would say, "Patria o muerte venceremos." That is, homeland or death, we shall succeed. And that theme just sung in every Cuban, like giving people that sense of, yeah, our homeland is ours and we'll defend it. The activity started from like the 10th to the 14th, and I'll tell you, it was held in what we call the Palacio de Convenciones. It's like a big convention place with a capacity of 1,500, and the place was
filled to capacity.
And everybody early sit down, and the delegates and the officials arrive, president arrive. As they arrive, everybody, it's just automatic. When they arrive, everybody stand up, national anthem, welcome them, say what they have to say. Always end with that terminology. But the interesting thing is that they had 15 thematic areas, so 15 different sections where you have to decide. So many of them at the same time that are difficult deciding which one to go, because all of them happening at the same time. Just imagine 15 different sections, topics, all related to Fidel and his philosophy, his impact globally. So I had to decide on one. And that happening at the same time, presentations, quality presentation. And that happened every day. For the 3 days, you had this separation and thematic areas going on. Contacts, people from all different nations made some good contacts, and what was very interesting too was the participation of the mixture of culture and let's see the hardcore discussion. And during the session, they always had somebody singing a song or reading a poem, some lighter moment, but all related and in sync. with the event. They had a solidarity forum, which I was fortunate to be there. I gave a solidarity message on behalf of Dominican. I felt like I was, like you're carrying, like Atlas, carrying your country on your shoulder.
What was the content of your solidarity message?
Basically, just saying, giving thanks to the Cubans for the human resource, the training of the students, and the impact on our society. As you said, almost 400 plus, and the impact it has in every aspect of society in Dominica. I mean, it was really just that, and I know it's natural for them to applaud, but I felt good. Applaud. The nicest was, I was the only person representing Dominica, and I felt that, yes, and that the trip was just, it was like a divine calling. I had to be there, and I'm happy Dominica was represented. Fortunately enough, also, I met with some students who studying at what we call ILAM, that's the International School of Medicine, and the students, I just want to talk to the parents. The students are very positive, very upbeat. They want to, they know they go on a mission, and they really want to stay and continue the mission, as difficult as it may be. So we know you're trying your best, but the students are very firm, very positive. I feel proud of them that they understand and they want to complete their mission.
What were some of the lessons learned with this special celebration?
Lessons?
Yeah.
Well, really, is like the whole idea was, to me, when I analyze it was very tactical and timely to really build that solidarity and let people understand, hey, Cuba is there and Cuba will survive, and we need your solidarity, and the solidarity was there. I want to mention what had impressed me at the closing ceremony, there was a group of children, ages about ranging from 3 to 10, and about 60 of them on stage put on a performance, poetry, singing. That was just, the coordination of that thing until them train it just shows that the potential of young people, once they're exposed to the right environment, they can excel in whatever. So this gave me remotivate my spirit to come back here and just continue the solidarity. Yeah.
And you also, Ambassador, published a special message. What were the highlights of that message?
Yes, I had the opportunity to write a piece that was published in media here, Dominican News Online, MO News, and other, the Pulse, other media. And the idea was to share what I think is important to celebrate, why it's important to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Fidel. And the idea is not to celebrate, an historic figure only. We need to celebrate his ideas, his legacy to the world, because his mission was always, okay, we are not fighting only for the present, we have to fight for the future. And we need, and when I heard Dr. Dublin talking about what happened in Havana, Cuba is not different. The idea is that we have a national hero, Jose Marti, who was fighting for the independence of Cuba in the 19th century. So he was born in a colony, and he wrote, "Homeland is humanity." So the way that we understand the world is that we are not alone. We are part of the human beings that live in this world, and we have to work together. We have to learn from each other. We have to share what we have. It's the only way that we can face the challenges that we have as human beings. And I'm talking about everything, epidemics, the environment, the climate change, all the challenges that we have. If we work together, it's the only opportunity, or the best opportunity that we have to succeed. So that was part of Jose Marti, that was part of Fidel, and not because Fidel has passed away, we have to forget. his ideas. No. Now is more important than ever. And when we talk about what the United States is doing with Cuba, yes, it's now Cuba, but who is next? How can we understand what is the best way forward if we don't work together? Solidarity is always what we want to see around the world. And silence is not an option. Inaction is not an option. Not now. We need to keep fighting for that better world. When you see what is happening in this world, when you see people that don't know how to read and write, and we are talking about hundreds of millions, people that don't have enough food, what is happening in Gaza, it's a genocide. But it's also in Cuba, because right now, what the United States is doing is that they prohibit countries to sell oil to Cuba. Imagine in this century, the 21st century, what country can survive without oil? Because and that's what I wrote also in that article. We are not talking about only oil for transportation. No, it's the oil to produce energy. It's the oil to produce everything, food, medicine. Because with oil you produce electricity. Now, probably Dr. Dublin can speak about that. We are giving more space to clean energies and solar energy, but it's expensive, and if difficult for a small island. I am really happy to see what is happening here with the geothermal plant, but we don't have that energy in Cuba. We don't have the wind to have the wind energy, or we have the sun, and we have to take advantage of that, but the technology is expensive. So Fidel talked about all that. Fidel wrote about all that, and the idea is, okay, we need to do something before we destroy the planet. We don't have another planet to go. Yeah. We need to save this. Yep. And again, sometimes the small islands know better, because we have to face the big hurricanes that the climate change provokes. So I really believe that the idea was to explain how the Fidel's ideas are still important and are still present, not only for the Cuban people, for all the people around the world.
Absolutely. In May of this year, we celebrated the 30th anniversary of bilateral relationship with Dominic. How important is this particular relationship?
For us, it's very important. For that reason, we have an embassy here, and I am proud to be the Cuban ambassador here. And I really believe that even in this small island, the Isle of Beauty, there's opportunities for cooperation, for collaboration. It's not about business. It's about what can we do together. And during all these years, and let me say this, relations go back before we establish diplomatic relations. As Ambassador Dublin mentioned, the first pioneers arrived to Cuba in 1979. So you achieved independence in 1978, and the first student arrived to Cuba in 1979. So we established diplomatic relations in 1996. For that reason, we celebrate as a formality the 30th anniversary, but we have relation before. And as we are proud of that relation. We are proud of what we have accomplished in all these 30 years. It's difficult to do sometimes more. We can do cultural interchange. We can do scientific interchange, academic interchange. Sometimes it's expensive. Sometimes only transportation is difficult. But we have to take advantage of the new technologies, because probably we can do soon interchange, using the new technologies, and we don't have to send people. But for many years we have this health collaboration, but we also have collaboration in other sectors of agriculture, as we have sent brigades every time that you need it after hurricanes strike the island. But also we receive from Dominica support in times that we need also that kind of support. So we are proud of what we have accomplished in all these 30 years.
Dr. Dobbs, you could always add, and wherever you feel the importance to reiterate.
I feel it's important that the relationship with Cuba and Dominica has always been positive. Governments over the years. Funny, if Eugenia Charles, the whole the link was, she was when the first set of students came back, it wasn't an easy time.
But the initial connection,
yep,
is one we haven't given enough recognition. The initial connection was through whose effort?
In terms of what
the first group of students to go to Cuba was through whose effort?
Well, basically, it's a collaboration. Well, Rosie,
the late Rosie,
I think, Afi played a part.
I think Oliver Serafin
Oliver Serafin was
played a part.
Interim government.
Yeah.
So he would have to get credence. Bernard Wiltshire, and there was a group of very progressive guys like Glenn. This name slip me now, and some of the guys who had this progressive movement at the time, and they were very positive in support. Henderson, Jockey, Patrick Henderson now in the States, and there were a set of guys who were very progressive, and they supported Francisco Esprit in Maho. All these guys were Point Michel, Joey Pelte. So that was the guys who had gone to university, come back, and were very progressive in the ideas, and they supported when the decision was taken. In fact, interestingly, I was all geared up to go to Moscow. The scholarship was arranged, a few of us to go to Moscow, but it didn't come through. So we just ended up going to Cuba. And I'm happy it didn't come through because first, maybe the language, I would not have had the advantage of the language and the Caribbean experience in itself. But I also need to note that this government, present government, has always had a positive solidarity with Cuba. The Prime Minister, on many occasions, have reiterated the solidarity with Cuba, the calling for the removal of the embargo. I mean, the collaborators play a tremendous role. I mean, in medicine, the collaboration in agriculture, nursing. Interestingly, when some students went up to Cuba to do nursing, when they came back, their degrees were not recognized. And funny, nursing instructors came from Cuba, and they were allowed to work and train
and Dominican nurses were not
in the nursing school. So it's just a contradiction. But at the time, the guild was very powerful, and we came back in 87, 88, 89, and we were able to exert some pressure. We met with the ministers at the time, and we were able to exert some pressure, and after a few years, they were able to get through. But it was a real struggle. It was a real struggle. And that relationship just keep on going. What I would like to say, as the ambassador mentioned, is sometimes we limit our bilateral relationships with countries like Cuba. Cuba is just a cultural powerhouse in all spheres. I mean, while I was in Cuba, when we had a jazz festival, I saw guys like Dilly Gillespie. I mean, I saw some of the top musicians from the States, basketball teams, baseball teams. I mean, even though Cuba and America had their conflicts, but there were exchanges, cultural and musical and other things, and we were able to benefit by seeing some of them things. I would like maybe some of Caribbean governments, CARICOM, to have that kind of link, cultural exchanges. I mean, Cuba was very strong in boxing, could use that to train our boxers. I think Dominica has sent a contingent at some time, but we need to see more than people to people connection, people to people training, which could benefit both countries.
Ambassador, in terms of the data as to the various professions that will give scholarships, you have any data in terms of medicine, in terms of architect, in terms of whatever? You have any data?
Well, I have the general number is more than 400.
More than 400, yes.
And we have more than 130 doctors, which is, we are proud of that number. We would like to see more, and you are going to see more in the future. This year, we graduate 10 new doctors.
Wow.
10 new doctors for the island. So I know that we have many other professions, but the numbers are smaller.
Smaller, yeah.
So the big numbers are the doctors, medicine, and the general number that is more than 400. We're talking about professionals for a small island like Dominica. So we are proud of that contribution, and we always ask them to come back and share that knowledge, share that expertise in benefit of their countries.
Okay,
in
producer?
fact, Wadix, on that point, quickly, the Guild is actually taking on a project to get that
data.
Yes,
data.
yes.
So in the process
Accurate
of
as possible.
accurate
Yes.
in all the different, and like everybody was going to, whether it's for 1 year, 6 months, we want to consolidate and have so we actually working on that as a project.
Yeah, I think this is important because when
Very
you put
important.
a value, then we would have understand the bilateral relations would have, cost X amount. Okay, producer, can you get the clip with the Prime Minister for us, please? This is a special Creole Heartbeat program. We are live on DBS Radio with the ambassador, the Cuban ambassador to Dominica. That's His Excellency Miguel Fraga, Dr. Damien Dublin. Also recently, yes, let's go.
The pages of history record that in every century there has emerged at least one large-in-life personality who captures the imagination and attention of the world, if only for the unique boldness in pursuing the extraordinary and for the shockwaves they generate in confronting oppression and the established order.
Las páginas de la historia consignan que en cada siglo nace por lo menos una personalidad que trasciende a la vida y capta la imaginación y la atención del mundo por su singular arrojo en la consecución de lo extraordinario y por las ondas de choque que su quehacer genera al combatir la opresión y el orden establecido.
Fidel Castro, the acknowledged leader of the Cuban Revolution, was one such person. I feel privileged to have been able to call him a friend and mentor.
Fidel Castro, líder indiscutible de la Revolución Cubana, fue una de esas personalidades. Siento el privilegio de haber podido llamarle mi amigo y mi mentor.
Ambassador, any response to this?
That was a very sad moment. That was when Fidel passed away, and you saw the people.
The crowd.
The crowd was impressive. I was in the
Wow.
United States at that time. I was working in our embassy there, and I saw this by TV. I never imagined to come here to Dominica, but when at that time, but when I heard a person like Prime Minister talking about Fidel like that, and was not the only one. During those days, many people pay tribute to Fidel, but it's very important to listen to that special words. And I had the opportunity to say to him, thank you so much for that words, because that means a lot to the Cuban people. Sometimes you don't realize how important is a person when that person is alive and when that person is your leader. But when you see when other people say, and I always remember, this quote from Prime Minister Roosevelt carried, but also what Nelson Mandela always say about Fidel, because Cuba has been a target. There is a toxic campaign of lies, of propaganda against Cuba. And when you see people that is able to fight for Cuba and to defend the reality of the Cuba is not a perfect society, but it's a country that has been fighting for social justice, equal opportunities. So the dreams of millions, education, healthcare, a lot of opportunities, and this was part of Fidel legacy. But for that reason, I say, we are not a threat to the United States, but we are a moral threat, because a small island that is able to send doctors to 165 countries, no soldiers, doctors. And of course, we are proud also of our soldiers, because our soldiers came to Africa not to occupy any country, to liberate. To help in the liberation of those countries. So when I heard to these words, I feel proud.
In terms of the assistance, in terms of medical assistance, Dominica is the beneficiary of tremendous amount of medical assistance. Tell us about this, because he has been talking the media circles, and even some of the professionals, nurses who come to Dominica, actually their salaries go back to the government. Can you clarify that and even mention the assistance to Dominica in terms of nurses and doctors?
This is part of the campaign.
Well, I think that's important for you to clarify that, because
I am happy to do it.
That's really been an issue.
First, what the Cuba Medical Brigade receive in Dominica is not a salary; it's an stipend, and we don't take a stipend. Sorry for my English on that.
That's good.
A stipend, and we don't take a dime from that stipend. They get their salaries in Cuba, and here they get an stipend. Stipend. And again, we don't take a dime. So what they use, and you can talk with the Cuban doctors and nurses that are here, what they use that money to help their families in Cuba. And it's the same with all the countries that we have around the world. In some countries, in some moments of time, we had the opportunity to receive money for that collaboration. Because, for example, I remember when we sent doctors to Brazil, sent to Pajo, and Brazil pay to Cuba. I say Pajo pays to Cuba. So there are different types of collaboration, but it's not a business. It's something that we do to help the countries that need that human resources. And for that reason, I always say, why we have doctors in Haiti for so many years? Why we were able to send doctors to Africa to fight against the Ebola? And you need to read what President Barack Obama said in Havana when he visited Cuba after we reestablished diplomatic relations, and he paid tribute to the Cuban doctors, and he mentioned the collaboration between Cuba and the United States against the Ebola epidemic. So there are different types of collaboration, but in the majority of the countries, we don't take money for the work that the Cuban brigades are doing. And as a matter of fact, the United States attacks this and put this propaganda. And in some countries they are successful, and we have to take back the Cuban doctors. What happened after that? They don't send a doctor, they don't send a nurse, and the people suffer. Right now, in the middle of this situation that you have in Haiti, we have a brigade there. Right now, we have a brigade in Italy, in a place in Italy that don't have enough doctors and nurses. And United States went there to put pressure, and they say, no, we need the Cuban doctors. So here, as I mentioned before, they get an stipend, not a salary. They get their salary in Cuba. and we
So
don't
they get
take
their
it back.
salary in Cuba,
Yes,
plus they get a stipend here,
here.
which some
Here.
of them use to
Here.
assist their family back
Yes,
in.
and let me say, the other day somebody asked me how they feel. Well, they are worried because their families are suffering in Cuba. And for example, right now we have an issue. We don't have any company that wants to send things to Cuba. And for that reason, they lost the opportunity to send the containers to Cuba, because they were sending containers with, solar panels, food, generators, power generators. They were sending also cars to Cuba, and they don't have now that opportunity. It's not because of the Cuban government. It's not because the government of Dominica. It's because the pressure that the U.S. government is putting in all the companies around the world to not do business with Cuba. So who is affected? The people, because at the end they cannot send money directly to Cuba, and that is something that the Cubans here, not the brigade, the Cubans who live here told me. You have a Western Union office here. You go there and you want to send money to Cuba, and they say no. Wow. You have to send it to United States, and probably someone in United States can send it to Cuba. But what that means, you have to pay more. You have to pay for commissions and all that, and you lose money. For that reason, we mentioned in the last year, the sanctions cost to Cuba $8 billion.
Wow.
In 1 year.
Wow.
That is not money that we don't have. That is money that we pay extra. Because right now, if you want to pay for a ship to go to Cuba, the company say you have to pay me more. Because there is a cost for me. If I go to Cuba, I can have a fine. Mm-hmm. No banks wants to do business with Cuba because they can receive sanctions from the United States. So if you find a bank that wants to send any transaction with Cuba, they charge you more. So that is the cost of the U.S. sanctions to Cuba. And it's not a bilateral issue, because we always say, okay, it's not a problem that the United States don't want to do business with Cuba. It's the problem that they put pressure in other countries. The oil blockade that we have right now start in January. And we had contracts with countries like Mexico and other countries, that Russia, that wants to sell oil to Cuba. Because of the fear of the sanctions, they have not been able to fulfill those contracts. We need 8 ships of oil every month. Is what we need in Cuba for the population that we have of 10 million of people. We only get in this 7 months 1. So imagine what that means. It's a terrible situation.
So what has been the alternative, Ambassador?
Well, it's a very good, difficult time. We have blackouts for more than 20 hours, even in the capital of the country. That means that we have to postpone surgeries. So we are doing only the urgent and the people that needs immediately assistance, but the rest we have to postpone. That means that we have sometimes that change everything, But as I mentioned, we are giving more space to the solar energy, and we are putting small kits of solar panels in banks, in bakery shops, in almost every in schools,
strategic areas,
exactly, in hospital and small clinics. But that is not enough for the real needs of Cuba. In Cuba, we produce oil. We produce like 40%, 45, 48% of the oil that we need to produce energy. It's a very heavy oil that produces a lot of damage to the power stations that we have. And for that reason, we are trying to improve the techniques, refining, and we have been able in the last month to do our own refining of oil. But again, it's expensive And when you put all that numbers, that is the big number I mentioned, $8 billion. Imagine what we can do with $8 billion for a small country like Cuba. So the situation is really difficult. Some people call Cuba a quiet Gaza, because it's a genocide. The people that is suffering is the people, the elders, the kids, everybody. Because right now you have, you need a surgery. It's not urgent, but you need it. You cannot do it because yes, we have the hospital, we have the doctors, but we don't have power to have everything operating. There is a photo that the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cuba showed in United Nations of surgery that was made with the light of a cell phone.
Wow.
And someone, I don't remember if it was the New York Times or another media, went to Cuba and they say, okay, when you lost power, you can put the generator, but a few minutes that you need to change from one source to another source. What happens if you have a children that needs respiration? What happens if you have a person that needs all the equipments that work with electricity? In those minutes, all the personnel suffer because you don't know what is going to happen. And what happened when the generator failed? Because that could happen too. So there is people dying right now in Cuba because of the U.S. Sanctions. And when you see, few years ago, less than 10 years ago, we have an infant mortality that was four children per 1,000 live births. Right now it's 9, almost 10. It's a wonderful number. When you see 9 children per 1,000 live birth, it's one of the best numbers around the world. But it's not the real number of Cuba. This is because of the sanctions.
It's much lower.
Exactly. We used to have 4.
What is the impact? Just imagine the impact on the Cubans, but think of the impact of others who had nothing to do with the politics of it. These Dominican students, the students from the Caribbean, the students from Africa. I mean, Cuba is just, honestly, when you analyze, Cuba has done only good to the world, to the Caribbean. I mean, Cuba has sent doctors to places that were underserved, that, I mean, in distant areas, in Haiti, in Africa, where the doctors have never been. And the Cubans go there. When doctors are running away from COVID and Ebola, the doctors are going in to save people. So you see, for what they call the spirit of internationalism, it's like a commitment to serve people, to share what you have, your knowledge in research and medicine with the world. But when we analyze, if we analyze the data at United Nations, when every year, I mean, when you look at the among the countries that have been supporting the lifting of the embargo, and maybe just 2 or 3 countries against superpowers, and the United Nations has no power to implement its own resolution. So sometimes I think that the United Nations need to sit down and reform itself, because it can't be that for 10, 15, 20 years you have a revolution calling for the end of the embargo, and every year the majority of the countries, except 3 or 2 sometimes, right now you find a lot abstaining because of the pressure, and you cannot even implement the resolution. So basically
how is the Cuban community presently in Dominica? Do they like the island? Any similarities in terms of Cuba, Dominica? I know we have quite a bit of Cubans here who reside here, who work here.
They love it. I'll tell you. I interact with them, well, for the guild. We interact with them when they have activities for, like they celebrate end of year activities is a big thing. A lot of celebration. I mean, there must be a what do you call a big pig after stew.
Yeah, that's nice.
Nice. So we are always part of them. What we did, we also organized like when once there was a really large group that were living of collaborators, and we organized a big activity at one of the graduates' home. Went very well, you know. So we have that link with them. I mean, wherever we can, we assist. And the
What
Cubans,
documentation does a Cuban need to visit Dominica?
Yeah. very
What
important.
documentation?
Well, we have an agreement, and you can come without a visa for 28 days.
28 days,
Right.
okay.
So after that, you have to apply, of course, to stay here, and that is something that we see in the recent times. I have met some of the Cubans who live here. They come to the embassy for different, services. They need a new passport. They need to do legal things, and they come to the embassy. I always ask, "How do you feel? What are you doing here?" And they feel that this is, a country that opened their arms to them. Some of them has come before in this collaboration mission. Some of them has come as contractors, workers. Some of them has been part of the medical brigade. Some of them has come when you had a hurricane, and so some of them has a connection. Some of them knows the graduates during their time of studies in Cuba. So there's a connection, and they come and they try to see how is the life here,
And integrate and
I feel they feel well. Some of them don't stay in the country. Some of they return to Cuba or go to another island. But some of them bring their family
and to
Generally-
and
or
stay
have
here.
a family here also. They create the family here. So we are seeing numbers, more Cuban coming in the recent times, and we are happy. We are happy. I know that you have a street that the name is Cuba.
Cuban
Cuba
Street,
Road.
Yeah.
Cuban Street in Meru.
Yeah,
Cuba
exactly.
Road, that was
Cuba
a
Road.
long
Cuba
time
Road. So
ago.
probably in the future we're going to have more if we have more Cubans here.
Ambassador, let's go back to the U.S. Situation. And producer, if you can play the Marco, the U.S. Secretary of State clip for us. The U.S.
Secretary.
Yes.
Secretary of State.
Yes, Secretary of State. Clip for us.
Be in power with.
So you want me to give you details on our plan?
Yeah, just.
Okay, not today. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell you this. No, here's what I told you, and this is the truth. The people who are in charge of the country don't know what they're doing. They don't know. They don't know how to fix their economy. They don't know they don't understand basic concepts. And I think the challenge that Cuba has faced for the last 15 years is they want to somewhat improve their economy, but they're afraid that if they improve it too much, they'll lose political control over people. That's the challenge that they face. So I think for us, we're looking for an opportunity to influence the direction that goes, because it's 90 miles from our shores, and we want Cuba to be prosperous. We want Cuba to be free. But in that sense, on the level of detail you're asking me, suffice it to say that as long as the people that are in charge think the way these people think and act the way these people act, it's going to be difficult for them to make the changes that need to be made in order for Cuba to have a better future. Because they just really, they either they don't understand it, some of them are incompetent, and some of them just basically don't understand, and others are just so recalcitrant that they'd rather destroy the country than ever walk away from a failed ideology, although I think the number of people in that category is less than it's ever been. But for the most part, it's just people that don't know what an economy is supposed to look like. They really don't. And because they've always relied on foreign sponsors. That regime has survived on subsidies from the Soviet Union and then from Chavez. This is the first time they don't have a sponsor that's giving them subsidies for free. And they don't know what to do with themselves because all they've done is freeload off these countries for all these years. The people of Cuba deserve better than that.
Ambassador, very strong words by the U.S. Secretary of State. Would you like to comment?
Of course. I am a diplomat. I want to be respectful, but this is difficult to hear, because his line, the first part, he don't want to give details about what, about a possible invasion to Cuba. That is the question. That is the first part when they say, I don't want to give the details. So when he talk about the situation in Cuba, he say he talk about the idea that it's a failed state. Really? With everything that Cuba has accomplished during all these years, he doesn't know nothing about Cuba. He called himself Cuban American. Yes, it's true that his parents came from Cuba. By the way, when he ran for Senate the first time, he lied, or at least he said he didn't know his own history, because he claimed that their parents came to the United States running away from communism. And the Washington Post made a story. He find out that their parents arrived to the United States in 1956, when Fidel Castro was in Mexico before coming to Cuba to fight for independence. So when the Washington Post published that, he said, "Oh, my mom never told me," and that is public. That is public. So that is the beginning of this person career. He always lied about Cuba. He has never been in Cuba.
He has never been to Cuba?
No, never. He was born in the United States, and as I mentioned, their parents escaped from the dictatorship of Batista. Yes, the same dictatorship that Fidel Castro overthrew in 1959. So their parents never escaped from communism. So when he say right now that we are incompetent, really, and we are still there without oil in the 21st century, and as Dr. Dublin said before, the country is working. Of course, if you don't have oil, you suffer the blackouts. I would like to see one day with 20 hours of blackout what Secretary of State Rubio is going to do in United States. What we say, and this is part of the U.S. speech every year in United Nations, and Dr. Dublin mentioned that for more than 30 years we introduced a resolution in United Nations asking for support to lift the embargo. And 1 year, no country voted against, because it was the last year of President Obama, and he voted in abstention. And the other country that always follow United States, Israel, vote in abstention. So United Nations has 193 states members, and we have 191 vote in favor and 2 abstentions. So nobody opposed, not even the United States. And that was the only moment that United States was applauded in United Nations when they talk about Cuba. So, but every year they say the same. Okay, the sanctions, the blockade are an excuse that Cuba used to cover their failures, and we always say the same: remove the excuse. If you say that we are going to fail, if you say that our ideology is failed, remove the sanctions. You don't need the sanctions. We are going to fail. The idea that we always have a sponsor, the Soviet Union disappeared in 1991. In 1991, and we survived. It's true that we have a lot of trade with the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union disappeared, we lost 80% of our trade overnight, and we survived. No thanks to President Chavez, because President Chavez won in 1998. And these are not subsidies. We sent doctors to Venezuela. We sent a lot of collaboration and cooperation to Venezuela, and we received oil. In some way, was a collaboration, an interchange, a fair interchange. That Cuba was not the only that received that. Here you have Petrocaribe. So President Chavez offered that to many countries around the world. So the idea to present that Cuba is a failed state, really? You know what is the country that has more gold medals in Olympic Games after the United States in this hemisphere? Cuba. When you see our culture, when you see our social numbers, I mentioned the infant mortality, but I can mention the life expectancy. Cuba had almost 80 years of life expectancy. Right now, it's not that because of the U.S. sanctions. So a small island like Cuba resisting this empire that dominates the world, and we are still there. We have been under this oil blockade for 7 months. What nation can resist this and can still organize an event like the event to celebrate Fidel, when we receive guests from
all over the world,
over 60 countries around the world. So when you see that, is part of the propaganda. But the real issue is that, when President Trump came to the second term, he talked about the tariff. What was the reaction all over the world? The G7 countries complain. And we are talking about the most developed countries around the world. And they complain. They say, this is not fair. Mm-hmm. The only country he didn't put a tariff on? Cuba, because there is no trade, because we have sanctions, and we survive even with the U.S. sanctions. So, hurts, and I am really, I would like to use a very strong word, but I want to be a diplomat and say this is not real. This is not real. This is propaganda. And he knows that. He knows that. For that reason, they increase the pressure. And the other thing is, we want to see Cuba free. Cuba is free since 1959, Mr. Secretary, and he knows that.
But what is quickly, listening to that, and I mean, I experienced being in Cuba from 81 to 87, following the achievements speaks for themselves. So I'm listening to that, you can see, I would just say, that this message had a lot of contradiction in it. That's all I'll say.
But I want to take in our final clip, producer. And this time I want to take in our clip from Congressman Jim McGovern. He's a member of the Congress since 1997. And he's a Democrat from Massachusetts. Let's take in our final clip to hear what the Congressman has to say.
And quite frankly, our policy toward Cuba is a disaster. It's an embarrassment. We should lift the embargo. We should have normal relations with the Cuban people. We should let the Cuban people decide their future. It shouldn't be decided by Marco Rubio or people in Washington. And right now, our intensified sanctions and embargo is resulting in starvation on the Cuban island, people not being able to get health care, people without electricity. I mean, it is a human rights crime, and it needs to stop. So I reject what the administration is doing, and I think our policy toward Cuba is a disaster.
And this is coming from a congressman who has been in Congress since 1997. So
he has seen it all.
But here's a difference from the same America mainland. What about the 100 million they offered Cuba, Ambassador?
I think it's a very important question, and I mentioned this many times. Yes, they offered 100 million, and we say yes. Okay, what are you going to send? You're going to send food, you're going to send medicine, you're going to send oil. We are still waiting. They send a little bit of food and a little bit of other things, but nothing major and nothing real important. And when you compare 100 million with $8 billion that the sanctions cost to Cuba in the last year, you can see that there is nothing that is really helping, because we say, okay, you're going to send oil. We don't need a donation from the United States if you remove the sanctions, because we are going to get what we need from other countries. And as a matter of fact, when we reestablished diplomatic relations with the United States, thanks to President Obama and thanks to President Raul Castro, when they sit down and negotiate the reestablishment of diplomatic relations, we proved that this was good for both sides. Mm-hmm. We signed 23 agreements between both countries. One agreement was about aviation. We get 120 flights between United States and Cuba. That means that Americans were able to travel to Cuba, they need a license, because this is something that don't everybody knows. As American, you cannot travel to Cuba without a license. You need a license. You cannot go as a tourist.
You have to get permission.
Exactly. You need a permission. Imagine, in the land of the free, they are not free to travel to Cuba. And in the land of the brave, they are not in the home of the brave, they are not brave to have normal relation with Cuba. That is what I always say. You know, I spent 4 years in the United States in our embassy there, and I visit more than 50 universities all around the United States. I visit more than 20 states, talking about U.S.-Cuba relations, and I realized that the American people don't see Cuba as the enemy. And it's the same on our side. We don't see the American people as the enemy. We believe that the government is the enemy. But you have a president like President Obama that say, okay, we are going to reestablish relations, we are going to improve everything that we can. We used to buy food in the United States, hundreds of millions in food, because it's near, because it's good quality. Imagine when we have to buy in Asia, in Europe, in Africa, how much time we have to wait, how much we have to pay for transportation.
Cost increase.
The cost increase, exactly. So we proved that relation was good, but not only for Cuba, was also good for the United States. In the United States, the people wants to have normal relation with Cuba. We have many links. The only thing that we need is respect and goodwill. Is when I heard Secretary Rubio and I heard Congressman McGovern, you know what is one of the big difference? McGovern has been in Cuba. McGovern has knows the reality of the Cuban people, and he's not a communist, he's not a socialist, he's a person that believes in the American system, but he understands that what the United States is doing is a crime, is a violation of the human rights of the Cuban people. And we don't have nuclear weapons. When President Trump said that Cuba is a threat to the United States, what is he talking about? Probably only about the example of the Cuban people, that with nothing has been able to do a lot, not only for the Cubans, also for humanity.
What do you think is that obsession from the U.S. president with Cuba as we speak?
Cuba was.
Let's be brutally honest.
Yes, I have to be honest. Cuba was a colony of the United States. When you go back to history, and history is important to understand, United States was an empire. Was trying to be an empire in late 19th century, and Spain was an empire that was losing power. And you remember the war between Spain and United States, and that war happened in Cuba, in Philippines, and in other places. And after that war, United States occupied Cuba for between 1899 and 1902. Cuba was occupied. The first Cuban constitution was written under an American occupation, and of course gave the United States all the benefits. We have to admit in our constitution a document that is the Platt Amendment that say the United States can take Cuba or can put troops in Cuba wherever they want. For that reason, we still have a naval base in Cuba. Remember Guantanamo Bay?
Yep. Guantanamo
base. This is thanks to that treaty that was signed between a Cuban government. What independence we have at that time? I always say to the people, do you want to know what was Cuba before the Cuban Revolution? Go and see The Godfather. You remember the movie?
Yes.
The Godfather's second part. The mafia, the mob was going to Cuba to create casinos, hotels, and Cuba was not independent. Cuba was under a brutal dictatorship, and for that reason we made the revolution. People say, okay, the people that went to the July 26, the big moment when Fidel led the Moncada attacks, the majority of them were not people that went to the university. Of course, because university we only have 2 universities at that time, and was not accessible for the people. My parents never went to the university, not because they don't were clever or they don't have
affordability.
Exactly, not access, not access. The idea of, for example, the black population. We have a big black population in Cuba, and Cuba was a very racist country because of the Spanish.
That's before Castro.
Before, yes, before. How many doctors? Black doctors we have before. How many black professionals we have before. Now you can see that Cuba is an integrated, a society that don't believe in difference among race, among gender, of course, it's difficult to change that in overnight, but we have accomplished a lot. So when this secretary said that, okay, we are a failed state, what are he talking about?
Nelson Mandela, one of the greatest black men who ever lived, had very high regards for Fidel, the late Fidel Castro. And, Cuba was very instrumental in the liberation of quite a bit of the African states. Can you tell us a little more about what transpired?
I mentioned before we have 10 million of people in Cuba right now, but almost 400,000 went to Africa to fight for the independence of Africa. And
400,000.
400,000. And we lost 2,000 Cubans.
2,000
Cubans. Wow. Not all were soldiers. Some of them were, doctors and advisors and civil workers that went to Africa, because my father went to Africa and he was not a professional soldier. He was a volunteer, as the majority of the Cubans who came to Africa. And thanks to that, Angola kept their independence, but also we were able to together defeat South Africa. And thanks to that, Mandela always say, okay, thanks to Cuba, I was free. I was able to become the first black president of South Africa. And he always mentioned, because he was criticized for defending Cuba, and he say, well, the first people we asked for help was the United States, and they refused. And when we came to Cuba, they say, what do you need? And that is the history of Cuba, And as I mentioned, we have 2,000 heroes that lost their life in Africa fighting. But it's not only Angola or South Africa. It's Namibia, it's Mozambique.
But it's important to say this, because
and we cannot forget.
We cannot forget
because sometimes people forget.
That intervention was a crucial and timely, because without that intervention, you would not have the liberation which opened the door, because South Africa in the apartheid movement, that intervention of the Cubans was crucial in breaking that whole myth of superiority and the white versus black. Just like in Haiti when they defeated Napoleon, that created the opportunity and faith in the others. But hold on, first black state beating mighty Napoleon, so that the same effect the Cubans had. Physically, and for those of us who believe in the Bible, Jesus Christ said that the greatest gift a man can give is his own life, and the Cubans put their life on the line to save. So that's why Nelson Mandela, the first place he visited was Cuba. And people wondering why, but that was crucial. And the whole liberation movement in Africa, all the mighty heroes that rose as a result of that crucial. So there'll always be that link between Cuba and that transcended. Well, in this time we were growing up and we were following those events there clear and having discussions, so we fully understood the important role.
And let me share two histories about this. One is that when we talk about the relations between Cuba and the Soviet Union, we have difference with the Soviet Union about the Africa campaign, because sometimes they don't agree with what Cuba wants to do. So that means that we were independent, because sometimes they say, okay, we were a satellite of the Soviet Union. And the other issue I want to share is during the 70s, President Nixon tried to approach Cuba, and Secretary of State at that time, Kissinger, everybody knows who was him, tried to approach Cuba. And one of the conditions to improve the relation with Cuba at that time was you have to return, you have to withdraw from Africa. And we say no. That is now public, but at that time was secret. So that proved first that we were independent, that we don't went to Africa because of the Soviet Union, or we didn't do what the Soviet Union always said. No. And the other issue is that even, we were at that time possible, we have the opportunity to lift the embargo, the sanctions, because they offered the opportunity to negotiate, but they put a condition. And Fidel say no conditions, and we are not going to abandon our brothers and sisters, because the idea of Fidel is we are not helping Africa, we are paying our historic debt, because hundreds, thousands of African people came to Cuba as a slave and fought for the Cuban independence during the independence war. So we have to repay that debt to Africa.
But I need to mention this important part. What in Cuba, I mean, when I went there are schools specific for Africans. I mean, I went to Cuba, and I tell you, almost every part in Africa represented. They have schools specially for orphans, so they take them from primary, secondary, university, graduate. Some of them go back to Africa or go back to the States. We went to visit some of them, specific schools, and just Africans, Namibians from, I mean, Ethiopia. I mean, just them Ethiopians, we used to call them Jaja children. Well, you could see it's just a whole
movement,
cultural movement of peoples. I mean, we made some good links with some of them African brothers and like Madagascar. I mean, it's like it just opened your eyes to so many different places. I mean, I was amazed when I met some people from Samoa. I mean, these people, it's as though all of them are the same, man. Tough bodies, black men, but it's as all their structures. It look like just one tribe. It just shows how.
This is a special Creole Heartbeat edition, and we are actually visiting the life of a Caribbean giant. When one was done so much, like we just said, assisted in the liberation of the African continent. Fidel Castro, who would have been 100 years on the 13th of August, and with us is Cuban ambassador to Dominica, His Excellency Miguel Fraga, and Dr. Damien Dublin. The lines are now open in case you want to interact, you want to ask any questions, you want to be part of the conversation, you are free to do so. But I want us to come back home to Dominica and look at how we can forge some relationships. I'm very passionate about the culture. I'm a cultural ambassador.
I know.
And both countries very rich in terms of cultural expressions. How can we get closer? How can we forge a closer relationship? How can we have more cultural exchanges?
I think that is something that I would like to see in the near future. Again, it's difficult right now because of the cost of transportation between our two islands. For example, for the Jazz Creole Festival, we try to bring Cuban musicians, and for one day only it's difficult because again it's very expensive. But also I think that we need to find opportunities. I don't know if we can do like a scholarships or something, a project together. I know that Dr. Dublin had in the past some Cuban musicians that came to Dominica and do several presentations. So the we understand the importance of this, and we need to find ways to come together to this. And I would like again to see in the Jazz Creole, in the Creole Festival, in all the big events that you have here, the presence of Cuban musicians. And I would like also that you are able to travel to Cuba and see our jazz festival, that we have also a jazz festival.
Because you also have a major festival.
Exactly.
Tell us a little more about the festival that you have in Cuba.
Well, it's every year, and and of course we have our own talent, but we invite talent from all over the world, and the people enjoy, because who love the jazz really enjoy the talent of the program that every year we present. Cuba is very strong in culture. We have a ballet, a national ballet that is admired everywhere.
Famous Alicia Alonso.
Alicia Alonso, a famous dancer, and other expressions. And again, I would like to see if we can in the near future here to bring Cuba cinema. At least to put one Cuban movie, and that can inspire.
That is a great idea.
I see the culture and the sports and everything. I was very, very happy when Tia Lafon won the gold medal, because I mentioned to her, and she's also an ambassador. I mentioned to her, you inspire the people, and I know what that means, because in Cuba was the same. Imagine a small island like Cuba winning so many gold medals, but the first was, a very special moment, and it's the same here. So I want to bring that movie, or a Cuban movie, I don't know which one, and put it here, and probably that can inspire a young from Dominica to be, to do a movie in the future. Because we have to show the way their experience of. We have now a young from Dominica that is studying medicine in Cuba, and he is part of the Cuatro, the group that play the guitar and everything. And I say, you don't have only to learn about medicine in Cuba. You need to learn about culture, and when you come back, probably you're going to be able not only to do a doctor, but also to show how we improve the culture in Cuba. So there are many ways we need to find and overcome all the challenges that we have, because of it's expensive, but we need to find ways.
I would really love to see the exchange of bands at the festival. You see, because I know Canela. And Dr. Dubs, Panman.
I actually met with two of the members.
Two of the members of Canela.
With them,
now, this is a band that has been to Dominica, right? They performed at the World Creole Music Festival already. It's an all-women Cuban group, and I mean they're fantastic.
Versatile.
I would love to see that cultural exchange. They come down and be part of our World Creole Music Festival, and possibly one of our bands to be included at your festival. It shows solidarity, it shows cultural integration, exchange, and I think what better way to show solidarity than to have a Cuban band, live in the Mecca of our Creole integration. I think this would augur well, and I think this is the direction we should be looking for, especially now our bands cannot even go to the US. So why can't we share similar cultures for Cuba? And then in terms of sports, I know Cuba has been big. Boxing,
in fact,
athletics.
Sports has been used strategically as part of to break the isolation, because Cuba was so consistent in their performance, as you said, in terms of medal. I mean, boxing. Cuba was renowned boxing at Olympics. I mean, I think the high jump record maybe still exists.
Cuba.
Sotomayor, yeah.
That high jump record, I don't think it has been broken yet.
No, not yet.
I mean, Cuba had tremendous boxers, athletes, and sports have been used as a means of breaking the isolation, getting more people into Cuba. But I think probably the tourism department need to probably pay more attention or strategic approach to Cuba, because Cuba.
No, but even before we go, even we'll take tourism by itself in a while. I want us to stick on the sports. I want us to stick on the sports for a while, because we have quite a bit of talented, young young people who kind of seeking scholarships, and most times we look towards the US, but Cuba is available. Because the same way we get educational scholarships, you can look for sporting scholarships.
But we need to
for some of those boarding athletes, because you have a record of good performances at Olympics, and I believe this is one of the ways we can forge a closer relationship. Sports is global, sports.
The exchange of coaches.
I always say
back and
talent
forth.
is there. It's among and that is the reason Cuba has been successful, because we gave the opportunity to everybody to practice sports in Cuba, and that is the way that you find the talent, the most talented people. I have been trying here to work with the Chess Federation. I went to several tournaments that they organize, and I always talk about Capablanca, because we have a world champion. I say,
you have a world champion.
Yeah, Jose Raúl Capablanca. This was before the revolution. Yep. But anyway, you can say a small island and has a champion, world champion. Why not Dominica? So you have to inspire people. You have to say to the people that it's possible, because otherwise, how can you explain Tia Lafon, a teacher that received the opportunity, that received the support, and was able to win a gold medal? And I was really happy to see how happy was the people here.
Yes.
Because it was not only her or her family, it was everybody.
Because
everybody
exactly. It was for us.
I remember Billy Doctor, the president of the Olympic Committee, that say, I was worried about what national anthem they're going to use, because for the first time will be and when you hear the national anthem, you see your flag.
Yes.
Everybody's proud of that. So everything that we can do, and we have programs, I have to be honest, with other islands, in boxing, in volleyball, I believe,
yes,
in other sports, basketball probably, yes. We need to learn cricket. We don't play cricket in Cuba.
That is where it gets interesting.
Yeah,
that is where it gets interesting, and that's where the relationship can expand. And I'm a practical person, Ambassador. How practical is this to get our athletes, to get our musicians to do that exchange, and vice versa? How practical that is? We know well the cost in terms of transportation can be a challenge.
I think that is the big challenge. But we can find a way. I believe, for example, probably it's more difficult because 2 years ago when I arrived, we were talking about the jazz festival. And I say probably a band is difficult, because when you have to bring a band, we are talking about a lot of instruments, people, etc. But we talk about, a small group, 2, 3 young, talented musicians that play the jazz. They can come and probably stay a little longer and do presentations and collect the funds for the transportation. But about a sport, you bring a trainer, one trainer, and you can, for example, in boxing or volleyball or basketball, and that person can train, in one school, or the more talented people. I spoke about chess, because chess is something that you can do online. You don't need to bring nobody. You only need to have a video conference, and you can do the classes there, and people can learn. So we need to find ways. There are always opportunity. The only thing that you need is the real will in both sides. And as I mentioned before, yes, transportation is a big challenge, because it's really, really expensive, and sometimes it's difficult to find the way. We don't have to get flight.
How can that be be managed. So we know, well, to go to Cuba, you have to go even to Trinidad and then from Panama. What was the route?
There are different routes, but not a direct flight, and sometimes you have to take.
But how can that be rectified until the embargo is lifted? That we have to wait still, or can something happen in the meantime?
I feel, as you said, like reduction could be like one person,
a smaller contingent.
A smaller contingent, as you mentioned. I'll give you a joke of, in Cuba, baseball is the national sport. So Caribbean man, we decided to go play cricket and make our bat. And then guys came and they holding the bat
like a baseball player.
But they were really amazed and interested in really learning the sport. So it's an avenue of exchange. But we can start small, but I think even though Cuba is under tremendous pressure, there can still be some exchange at a smaller level just to make the connection, and then we can work it out as a long-term
We need to find out, what do you want to start?
What I would like to see started, Canela. You see Canela? Canela, is there a way, let's say the Cuban government can get Canela, let's say, to Dominica, and then Dominica would host them and give them whatever necessary payments and so. But then the Cuban government would get them to Dominica, and the rest of the hospitality Dominica would take care of that. How possible is that?
Well, we need to find out. I know that you have the meeting in Cuba, and probably we can do something. You talk about this Creole Festival?
In fact, yes.
I'm thinking of Creole Festival, and I'm going to tell you why. Hispaniola.
We were targeting this festival.
Hispaniola is half of Haiti, is half, and also Santo Domingo. Yeah. Now, very critical in our chain of the Creole music is merengue.
Oh yeah.
Now, merengue salsa was part of the formation of Haitian compas. So the Haitian compas, or the Haitians, took the merengue salsa from Santo Domingo and they fused it with jazz and soul and created Haitian compas.
Okay.
Now compas is now 71 years, but then you could see the relationship very early with the Latin music. Now from Haitian compas, Exile One and Gordon Henderson, they fused Haitian compas, which was Cadas Rampa, with Calypso to form Cadas Lipso from Dominica. So what you hear now is a second genre. But Dominica created a first genre in 1973, 1974 called Cadas Lipso. Now from Cadas Lipso, the French, then the music evolved into Zouk. So from about 40 years ago, they now use their computerization and different, the Goka in particular, and they created Zouk music. I'm not sure if you heard of Zouk music from Guadeloupe and Martinique. And then from that, another offspring from the Cadas Lipso was Soca. So the three Cadas Lipso is there. So it go one way to Guadeloupe and Martinique Zouk. And then despite whatever Trinidadians may say, Soca was created. And then from there, we have Bouillon, which is what you hear today most of the time. Do you like Bouillon music?
I like it. I am learning. You know, Oprah, teach me, Soca, Bouillon, and I have in my playlist, I have new music.
But I have seen the Cubans enjoy the parties they play and
I am not a good dancer, I have to say that. That is my Spanish heritage.
So the Latin foundation, and Latin is global music, it is, if you inculcate it into the whole World Creole Music Festival, it kind of broadens the scope of music, and it solidifies our relationship, our bilateral relationship with, let's say, Cuba, because there are several groups. Like I said, I am really, excited about seeing Canela again. I've seen quite a bit of the videos, but then it's not so much the band coming to Dominica, but it's in solidarity with the whole embargo that Cuba is going through.
The timeliness.
The timeliness.
Is just
because
perfect.
yes, we say we are in solidarity with you, but I think on a Cuban band, on our major festival,
that's a practical way of showing the solidarity.
Practical way of showing.
And besides what with an all-women band, that already is an attraction. Plus the Spanish salsa music. So you actually another niche. The whole Spanish community is big here. Santo Domingo plus the Cubans. I mean, that would just
No,
honestly,
if we look carefully at what's singing
tremendous.
Latin music, Puerto Rico, Santo Domingo, Cuba, Venezuela, millions. Millions just on the baseline. And if you go to Latin America, again, you know, millions. Dominica's music was number one at one point in time in South America, Latin America. That's Dominica, the first genre that's Dominica's cadastral music. Was and it even influenced quite a bit of our music. Gordon Henderson made a sound to kind of you know, reflect on them. Rosita. Yo te quiero, you know, that sort of thing. So the tree, the family tree, and possibly because it stemmed from Africa, because quite a bit of Africans we know, the Haitians. It's a way of expression.
But
because from the plantations, that is all, you know, we had. That expression.
Don't you know that song, which everybody in Dominica, which you know growing up from young, Guantanamera.
Of course, yeah,
that song was written by Jose Marti.
Yeah.
A poet, a
Cuban.
A Cuban. He's a national hero. He's the man who his weapon was ideas, and that's why they were afraid of him. Man could write, and so he was the precursor, the ideas which Fidel and them picked up. And I just found that recently that the lyrics of the song was written by him.
Wow!
And that song is so popular.
Global.
We go upload that song.
It's a mega.
And using our own words. When I realize
it's mega.
The lyrics are that, so I say, oh, that is all this song.
Yeah, one of the greatest ever songs.
Yeah, that song.
Number one songs. By the way,
global.
We are in with a special Creole Heartbeat program. Fidel Castro 100 special guests. Cuban Ambassador to Dominica, His Excellency Miguel Fraga and Dr. Damien Dublin. Once again, the lines are open in case you want to join the conversation. Feel free to call us tourism ambassadors. How feasible it is, especially we are on the same basin, Caribbean basin, but we also know that there's transportation. But how feasible it is for tourism between the two islands?
You know, I think that in the past, some countries saw Cuba as a threat. But right now, what is working is multi-destiny tourism. And that is an opportunity. And when you see the cruise industry, they would love to have Cuba again, because thanks to President Obama, we had the opportunity to welcome almost every major cruise company in Havana, and it was the same cruise that after come here or later come to Havana, and multi-destiny is an opportunity. Because it's not the same. We are in the same geographical area, but we have our own things to show. And for example, we are trying to find opportunities for the cuisine, because we don't have the same, cuisine in Cuba or in Dominica. But imagine if right now I know that in Posmo there is a new Cuban restaurant, and I am happy. I'm very happy because there are Cubans that have the roasted pig and the Cuban, the dishes. Exactly.
I was hungry.
Exactly. But imagine if we can offer in Havana the food that you offer here, that could, bring more attention. And here, if you have, for example, in your hotels, you can offer also the Cuban food. So Cuba was able to welcome more than 3 million, 4 million of tourists in the past when everything was better. Yes, since to that time when we restablished diplomatic relations, we welcomed 1 million of visitors from the United States in 2 years in a row. 600,000 Americans and 400,000 Cuban Americans. They visit Cuba. And at that time, we didn't have hotels, enough hotel rooms in Havana. For that reason, we start building new hotels, and I'm sure that Dr. Dublin saw some of them now. But we also have the old hotels that have the history, have the old to. But again, I think tourism is an opportunity if we can develop the multi-destiny tourism, and if we can share experiences. So we can bring specialists, chefs, whatever, and you can send to Cuba also the same, because I don't like to believe that it's only Cuba who wants to offer. No. We need to learn too, and we can benefit also in this interchange, as I mentioned before. And for example, we have a Caribbean festival every year in Santiago de Cuba. Santiago de Cuba is the most Caribbean city of Cuba, and we have this Caribbean festival every year. What amazing could be to have a delegation from Dominica. In that
do you
event.
have delegations from other Caribbean islands?
Yes, every year we dedicate the festival to the different country. Of course, in the last year has been difficult because of this situation that we have, but we need to do it, and we need to again to bring.
Any chance Dominica will be highlighted if everything's get back to
I think we can if we can.
Well, you are the one that has pushed it.
I'm in the middle. I have to find good par and counterparts in both sides.
But you have good support. So I mean, Santiago is like the part of Cuba that's more what you call Caribbean. The population of black higher, the culture. The drumming, the African connection, and it's closer to the Caribbean, so that would be a festival.
Agriculture is a mainstay for us. How can we forge relationships, closer relationships in agriculture? Because we know that agriculture is also big in Cuba.
Yeah, and it's a matter of independence. You need to produce your own food. You cannot rely.
If you couldn't produce, you would have been
exactly, and
as a template.
This is a challenge because agriculture is expensive. Not many people realize that even in the richest countries around the world, agriculture is subsidized. Even the United States, you see the farm bill,
subsidized,
and they receive a lot of money to produce food. But we have the land.
Yeah.
Sometimes, what happened to Cuba? I always mention that when I am the son of a former farmer, but he didn't have the opportunity to go to the university, and he told me, you have to go. So when I went to the university, I became a lawyer, and after that became a diplomat, and not going back to the farm. So that is a challenge. We need to explain to the new generation that agriculture is important. And right now, of course, the richer countries have the equipment, have the technology. We have to produce, with the hard work, the real hard work. But for that reason, we need to share experiences. How do you do it here under your conditions, and how do we do it in Cuba? Also, for example, we try to develop the agriculture in the cities, so everybody being able to cultivate something, tomatoes, small.
We have that program.
Exactly,
we have a special program. We encourage everyone to have a little backyard.
Exactly, because if everybody's in the city, if everybody's in the city, and not everybody wants to go back to the farm, we still need to produce food. And if everybody produces a little bit,
can use this space.
That is better. So there are experiences that we need to share. As a matter of fact, we have a mission recently here, and they help with the cacao, with the coconuts, with the plantains.
Some of the diseases too.
Exactly.
In fact, what is that actually a mission in Dominica now? Of some Cubans working. Yeah.
It's a small.
What are they doing?
They helping in some areas, like some pests. We had some disease and techniques.
As with the coconuts.
Yeah, with coconuts and other
agricultural products.
The cocoa and
Coffee.
In fact,
coffee
actually,
too.
one of the guys I know him. We studied together with with some of the Dominicans at the time.
The potatoes, they were part of this event that you have about the potatoes, and they bring all the expertise that we have in Cuba. Remember that in Cuba we had a big agriculture, and when we lost all the fertilizers and we lost, we had to produce, and that expertise is very important, because when you produce without fertilizers, without big machinery, is better, because the products are better for the human health.
More organic.
And
Exactly.
Cuba is very big on research. I mean, and that was all part of Fidel's first. So through research, you get new varieties and new ways of doing things. So we could learn a lot from the research findings and how we can. And so mutual benefits. So
We have heard several times that the Prime Minister has reiterated that his vision for Dominica is to be the first climate resilient country
Yes.
in the world. How can we assist it? Get assistance from, in terms of technology, in terms of practical ways to do things from Cuba?
You know, we have learned, and we have expertise, and we have the experience, because we face almost the same. Almost every major hurricane that hits Dominica goes to Cuba after that. And for that reason, I know that we have interchange. That we had in the past missions that came to Dominica and worked here with your station in Jimit. And I know that all the expertise and the experience that we have, you have learned, for example, how important is to advise the people with time. You don't have to wait to do everything that you need to do when you know that the storm is coming, and that early alert system is part of the Cuban experience.
Yeah.
Because the most important is the human life. You can rebuild.
Yeah.
You can save or you can start over. But if you lose a human life, that is impossible to rebirth. And for that reason, we know that there is an experience and a program that probably in the future we need to do more, because I believe that, for example, you need more human resources in that area. And now, for example, that you're going to have the new airport, you need human resources with the knowledge, with the training, to face that new challenges. But it's very, very important, because the climate change is a reality, and everybody's suffering. And every year we have more and more and more, possibilities to be in the middle of these big storms that make so much damage. I am very happy, when you are building new homes that are built in order to resist these big storms. When you are trying to do everything and you have the shelters and you have everything, that's what we do in Cuba. And the idea is we have communities that we know that are going to be affected. What we do is to evacuate those people with time and to put the resources there. For example, when we are always prepared. In the hurricane season, we do an exercise in Cuba, and we do it abroad.
A simulation exercise.
Exactly. And the idea is, for example, I know that all the collaborators, the majority are going to the hospital or are going to the places that have to work, so I don't worry about them. I have to be worried about the others that are going to stay in their homes. And I know that you are taking all the proper steps for communication, because it's vital, the communication. So what we do is to plan ahead, to try to take advantage of the experience and to try to organize everything. So for that reason, every hurricane season we start with an exercise just to explain everybody, okay, if a storm comes, We don't have to wait. You know that you have to go to this place because it's the safest place. You stay there until everything is okay.
Yeah.
Don't move during the storm. So we offer that training, and it's the same in Cuba. If we know that the storm is coming, we evacuate the people
always.
immediately. Here in Cuba we have something that is the life mission. That is, we don't allow people to build near the shores.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows that a big storm is going to destroy everything.
Yeah.
So you are not going to build and rebuild and rebuild and rebuild. You have to move the people away from the shores. I know here it's difficult because of the geography and because everything that you need. But I know that the experience of the Maria and other big hurricanes, now you are building better and you are building in more safe communities. So we are learning.
I want to ask something in terms of the scholarships that are offered. Is it Dominica choosing the fields, the area, or the subject for study, or the Cuban government is offering?
There's what we have to plan ahead. So every year, what we do is that we offer base of the need that you convey to us, but not all the time we can guarantee what you need. So we prioritize the health sector because we understand it's a big need for you.
It's a priority.
It's a priority. And we offer another scholarship, but it's a small amount because also remember that we don't only offer to Dominica. We offer to almost many countries. In the Caribbean, almost every country.
All over.
In Africa, in Latin American. So we don't have also all the infrastructure, we offer, okay, what do you need? More doctors? Okay, we are going to offer more opportunities for medicine. We are going to offer nurses, but we also offer a small amount of other specialties: agriculture, architecture, other. We don't offer law because we have a different system. But what I always say is, let me know what do you need, and we are going to try to plan for the next year or the year after.
Excellent. What sort of future do you see for the bilateral relations between Dominica and Cuba?
I really believe that there is a real bond between both nations. I don't mean governments or states. It's also true that we have a good relations among both governments, but the bond is beyond that. And I always mention when I go with the car and the car has the flag, people salute. And you see the real feeling of love or respect or and people ask me, how is Cuba and what is happening? And that is because there is a connection. And the connection is there because of all these years. So almost every people I met has been in Cuba or has a connection with Cuba. My brother studied in Cuba. I have
Okay, we just getting a caller from our producer. Yep. Okay, good evening to you, Creole Heartbeat, especially Fidel 100. We lost the caller? Okay, the person can call back.
Good night.
Okay, good evening.
Good night to Ambassador from Cuba.
Good night.
Good evening.
Good night.
Good evening.
That sounds like only up.
Yes, Ambassador Dublin, good night to you.
Good night.
Very interesting program. I want to tell you, Ambassador, I spent a little time in Cuba. I spent some time in Santa Maria Hotel. I just want to thank him for the whole program that set up for the Caribbean people. I really enjoy it and I learn a lot of experience. I didn't spend, but I learn the way they do things. They do things in advance. If you're going to put a program for tomorrow, you're starting to do it today. Getting the people ready, your tools, just getting ready. So tomorrow, when the work starts, you don't have to look for the tools. It's there. It's a really philosophy of Fidel Castro. You always have to be ready. And the way they put the elderly people to drill in the morning, exercising, the elderly people, they have been exercising all over Havana, keep them fit. And the way they produce food, they grow food anyway. In a barrel, in a cup, in a pan.
Adaptive.
And the people always ready to work. They never sit down. I always see them moving, working something. One of the things I would want you to ask him.
You can ask him. You can just ask him.
Yeah.
If we have to set up a university in Dominica, and you can get the professors to come and teach, because I think that is an excellent idea. I mean, I've been listening to the Labour Party Wednesday night program, and the host, a former teacher, he always asking the Prime Minister to go to Africa, try to link more strong with Africa, because you see all the wars and the confusion. I believe we're in a good opportunity to build a few African schools, as they all say. But what is 3 questions I want you to remember to ask him. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you very much. The caller wanted to find out the possibility of a Cuban university in Dominica. How possible is this?
Well, I know in the past, for example, we bring, nurses to train Dominican nurses. I know that in the past, some members of the medical brigade were working at the university here as professors, as tutors, and probably that is something that we can do in the near future. I have to be honest, sometimes the language is a barrier. And for that reason, when the students arrive to Cuba, they learn Spanish. I'm not sure that in the near future, I have to be honest, we can bring professors, and as a matter of fact, we talked recently, a couple of years ago, about to bring professors to train people here, like carpenters, plumbers, all these kind of skills workers, and the main issue was the language. But again, we can find ways to try to do it, and the will is there, because the idea of Fidel, we can send people, but at the end, we need to be able to give the opportunity to them to develop their own human resources.
Exactly. Another call coming in for good evening to you, Creole Heartbeat. Okay, hello. Okay, we seem to have lost this caller. By the way, you could, in case you want to join the conversation with the ambassador, His Excellency Miguel Fraga, and also Ambassador Damien Dublin, you could just give us a call and be part of the conversation. So we were talking about the future for Dominica, bilateral relations. How many more years do you have in your first tenure?
I don't know. Normally you are here for 4 years. I have been here for more than 2 years already.
More than 2 years.
But that depends, you never know.
So that means the other two.
The other two.
A lot of positive ideas came out from this discussion. So I guess you.
I think we now have the caller. Good evening to you, Creole Heartbeat. Good evening to you, Creole Heartbeat.
Yes, good evening, Wadi.
Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Human Ambassador and Dr. Dublin.
Good evening to you, madam.
Yes, I heard you were talking about Marco Rubio.
Yes.
He is just a disgrace to society because he wants to recolonize the world. I just wanted to mention that tonight. It's so troubling, very troubling.
Okay, thank you very much, caller.
Have a good night.
Okay, pleasant night
Have a
to
good
you.
night.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's really troubling because the thing is sometimes you wonder. It's so easy for countries to live in peace or seek peace rather than war, because war is costly, it leaves scars. I mean, what's the trouble or the problem in just respecting countries' independence and sovereignty? You kind of want everybody can be the same, everybody cannot think the same, or you want everybody to follow the same principle. You may have your system of governance which you want to maintain, but why do you want to impose that because you're mighty on others and with the respect for the language, the culture? I mean, Cuba has 10 million people. You have no thought for the livelihoods of those 10 million people because you just want to achieve the objective. My view of the world is I think the world has enough resources and wealth to feed the world, but it's just that some countries just figure they want more than others, and they don't want people to feel, okay, well, you're going nicely, so you could have influence or in forums like United Nations. They always want you to be a few steps below them. But
let me say this, because my problem with Secretary Rubio is that I can respect his ideas. They are different, and we understand that. And probably I can say that probably he doesn't know about Cuba because he has never been in Cuba. But I really believe that he knows that he's making a lot of damage to the Cuban people. That if you put pressure on a society, economic sanctions, and you don't allow this society to receive oil, to receive medicine, to receive food, what are you doing? You're killing that people. So a person like him saying that, okay, this is a Cuban responsibility, he's not being honest. He's lying. And it's the same that we see in so many U.S. politicians. I don't want to say, don't believe me. Look what Congressman McGovern said. It's a disaster. And we are causing starvation. And we are denying people to go to receive the health care that they need. So that is my problem with Secretary Rubio. You are killing people and you don't care. And this is human beings, civilian population, children, the elders. Imagine 20 hours without electricity. And this is not because Cuba is not able to buy fuel. It's because they threat every country. If you sell to Cuba, you're going to have sanctions. And for that reason, well, they have to protect their own countries and they don't sell.
Okay, more calls coming in for Ambassador from Venezuela to Dominica. Good evening to you, Creole Heartbeat.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Oh, good evening to you, sir.
Great show.
Thank you very much.
Great show. Yeah, so I know there was an issue with the United States, and in terms of visa restrictions to the Caribbean, where they wanted any Caribbean island that had any technocrats or doctors, teachers, they wanted these countries to send back these people back to Cuba, because again, Marco Rubio said that these people were being financed by the Cuban government. So we had something like in Jamaica, I think they had over 4,000 doctors that were going to be repatriated back to Jamaica, back to Cuba. And I think there was also some pressure against Dominica and Antigua. And And I think at one point in the news they were talking about the way that Dominica or Antigua was going to circumvent the U.S. request was that they were going to start paying the Cuban doctors like they would pay any medical professional equivalent to a Dominican. What is the situation with that? Is that still something? Is that still an issue that the government is putting pressure on Caribbean islands that had, let's say, Cuban technocrats, doctors, nurses, teachers, whatever? Is that still an issue?
Ambassador? Thank you very much, caller.
Thank you so much for the call and for the question. I think, you can read in the media that they pressure everybody. They put pressure even, as I mentioned before, on this community in Italy, where we have Cuban doctors. They threat, they say lies about the Cuban collaboration, and the idea is that the countries, don't all the countries do the same. The response is different, and you see the independence, and you see the response of different countries. For example, in Jamaica, they say that the problem is that Cuban didn't collect directly their stipend. Here, all the members of the Cuban collaborators, have a car from the bank, and they get directly their stipend. Stipend. Sorry, I still made the same mistake. The stipend in directly. So they lie.
I guess they would engage the banks here also.
Yeah, they have direct connection with the bank, and they do. And before they used to buy, because we have online stores in United States that sell food to Cuba, and they used to buy with that money directly the food for their families. So the United States was having a good business with this, because they use the money to buy in United States to send food to Cuba or to buy the solar panels. So the idea is, I know that they always make excuses. They always change the narrative. They talk about the Cubans are a slave. Really? You can see, for example, here, some of the Cubans collaborators have returned to live in Dominica, and you see now that they are part of this society, and we are proud of and happy to see that this happening. Sometimes the pressure is not public. Sometimes the pressure is in secret, because they don't want to pay the price to explain why they want to remove the doctors that the society needs. And we are open to change everything that needs to be changed, but we are not going to change our principles. We are not here because it's a business. We are here because we understand it's important, the collaboration that we offer, and it's the same reason that we are in other countries around the world. I always mention, when Haiti suffered the big earthquake
2010.
Exactly. I saw the news talking about all these countries are sending help, and you see these countries saying playing with food, and this countries send health workers, and they don't mention Cuba. You know why? Because we had 400 doctors in Haiti the day before the earthquake, so we didn't need to send nobody to help. They were already there, and they are still there despite all the difficult situation, social and political and economic situation that Haiti face right now. And it's not because money, because they only understand money, and for that reason I say we are not partners, we are brothers and sisters, and we share what we have. For that reason, I have to be honest, I don't believe that we can open a university here, because it's not something that we have right now. I cannot say, oh yes, we are going to do it. Or for that reason I say it's difficult to bring artists, or to bring, I would love to see the football team coming to Dominica to have a match.
Of course.
Nice.
Here at the stadium.
Of course. Now we're talking.
Last year, the Cuban football team went to St. Vincent, and they play a couple games there. So why not?
Our lights,
bring
we have
it back?
our lights, we have our lights now. President.
Exactly. Yeah.
We could even invite the Haitian team.
Of course, we can invite the. Now we're starting to talk about my kind of language. You know,
But
the
my
Haitian
view on the
welcome team.
question is the reason put forward. Everybody who understands the situation know that that is not the real reason. It's just part of the process to effect change. But I strongly believe that CARICOM could have taken a joint approach rather than each country trying to solve the problems themselves, because we all know in Caribbean the importance of the Cuban collaborators and the Cuban doctors to the system. They work in areas that,
it's a need.
It's a need. The thing is, if you want to tell me, okay, I don't want you to have this, but I'm going to double it or triple it, it's fine, but you're telling me to get rid of them, but you're not offering to replace. And we know the use of these people in the areas that nobody else, no other doctors wants to go, because the Cuban doctors, and this is not just about money, it's about the humanitarian aspect to solve the problem, because the areas where the Cuban doctors are, there's areas that other doctors just don't go. So I think we should have had a joint approach, and if we had a joint approach, probably it could have been different, because jointly together we could have solved the problem and negotiate stronger. But the governments will do what they have to do and solve the problems in whatever way they can.
This is a special Creole Heartbeat program, and with us, Cuban Ambassador to Dominica, His Excellency Miguel Fraga and Dr. Damien Dublin. We should be winding down in the next 15 minutes or so, but I left two questions for last. What about the Western critic that would continue to say they will not support the removal of the embargo because the rights of the normal Cuban is prohibited? The normal Cuban doesn't have rights, so it's not a democratic situation in Cuba.
This is a very good question, and I like to explain this in all the American universities I visit. That's an excuse, and when you talk about the Western, I believe that you really mention only a sector in the United States, a minority inside the United States. Because when President Obama was in power, he reestablished diplomatic relations with Cuba, and we proved it was good for both sides. United States has relations with countries that don't allow political parties. United States has relations with countries that don't have elections. United States has relations with communist countries. President Trump sit down with North Korea. What happened? Nothing. It's good. You sit down. You find ways to improve relations. So these are excuses. When you talk about human rights, when you talk about democracy, what are you talking about? Cuba has we have our own reality, but it's a society that works. We have elections every 5 years. In order to become president, you have to be elected member of the parliament. So we have our own constitution. Is perfect? No. We can improve? Yes. But it's a decision that only have to be made by the Cuban people, not because of the pressure of the U.S. Recently, when I talk about Western Union, in the middle of the COVID pandemic, the United States cut the opportunity to send money through Western Union to Cuba. At the same time, they gave the opportunity to send money to Afghanistan, where they have a war for 20 years, and they don't want that war. but they gave the opportunity to Western Union to open offices in Afghanistan and people to send money to Afghanistan. So what that means, that is a double standard. When you say, oh, it's a communist country, what about China? What are the relations with China? How much money the United States owes to China? You know, the big debt the United States have with China is very big. As a matter of fact, they are losing the economic differences that they have. So it's not true that it's about human rights, as Congressman McGovern said in this video that you put. The sanctions are the real human right violations that you see in Cuba every day. It's not about democracy. We have a democracy that is in place for since 1976. We have elections in Cuba since 1976, and at the beginning was not a direct election. Now are direct elections. And how this works? Every 5 years we have candidates. The party is not part of the electoral process. So you don't have to be a member of the party to be member of the parliament. You only need to be a person that gets the votes of the majority, 50 plus 1, in your district. And after you are elected, okay, in the national parliament, you can be nominated as president, but you need to be a member of the national parliament. It's how it works. But you see, other countries, we don't have a king in Cuba, and United States have relations with countries that are monarchies, that don't have elections, that don't have electoral process. So, again.
Maybe interesting verdicts too. For maybe Ambassador could explain the concept of the poder popular, how the system is from the ground upward.
Yes.
We have an assembly, a parliament in every municipal term, so in the smaller place, and to be member of that parliament, you need to be elected in your neighborhood with 50 plus 1% of the votes. And those are the ones that made the proposals for the national parliament. And at least half of that national parliament needs to be elected in the municipal level. So imagine how important is and how popular is the process. And in our national parliament, it's not a professional parliament. So you don't get a salary. You don't get paid for being a member of the parliament. You get paid for your profession. So if you are a doctor, you receive your salary as a doctor, because most of the time you are working as a doctor. If you are a lawyer, if you are and the idea is to have in that national parliament representative of all the sectors of the society. So students, people who practice sports, so scientists, union leaders, women's. Cuba is the second in the world with more women in parliament. With more women in parliament. So that is, and at the end you can lose your position at any time if people believe that you are not doing the work that you're supposed to do. So there is a check and balance during the 5 years that you are a member of parliament. In one point, we have also a parliament in the province, because remember, for us we are a big island. So we have the municipal, the provincial, and the national. And at one point we have a provincial parliament, and I was a student, and I was elected to the provincial parliament in the capital city of my country, Why? Because my fellow students believe I'm going to be a good, representative.
Yeah, the leadership qualities.
Exactly. So I was a student. I didn't get paid as a student or as a member of the provincial parliament. But one of my tasks was every year, once a year, discuss the budget of the capital city of Cuba, Havana. Imagine for a student to talk about that and to be able to see how much money goes to health, how much money goes to education in the capital city, how many schools we are going to build, how many hospitals we are going to repair, how many, whatever we were doing. And again, I was elected not because of my last name. I was not elected because of my wealth. I was elected because I was a good student, according to my fellow students. So that is how it works in Cuba.
Freedom of expression, freedom of association in Cuba.
Go to internet. Go now to see in TikTok how many people is going live from Havana and criticizing the government. Not everybody goes to jail. Only if you broke the law. And when you talk about freedom of expression, go to the United States right now to see what happened when you criticize what ICE is doing in almost every city in the United States. And let me say this, because sometimes we have to say the things as they are. How many people the United States is killing in the Caribbean waters? According to the last number I saw, more than 200 people has been killed by the U.S. Forces in the Caribbean city. That is a democracy? That is something that respect the rule of law and international law, and why they don't bring these people to justice? So, and if you go right now again and see how many people have the opportunity to say what they want on the streets of the United States without suffering repression, I think we have a...
Okay, we have another caller here. Good evening to you, Creole Heartbeat.
Yes, good night, gentlemen. I just want some clarification about a question. Should I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead, caller.
Attention to the resident ambassador, Mr. Senior Miguel.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question, sir. Thanks for the efforts and thanks for the assistance provided by the Cuban government. We are grateful and appreciate that to the highest level. However, when the Cuban government provide assistance in terms of personnel in various areas of faculty, if one or two of these individuals have been performing a very high level of service to the country wherever they are sent to, I assume that you provide a ton of good reports to the Cuban government. Having done so, if there is a need, or a great need from the nation that you would like that person or persons to remain in the country, why are they recalled back to Cuba in spite of the services that they have been provided to the higher level? Why are they being recalled to Cuba and be replaced? Can they remain or can they stay be extended rather than being replaced by someone else? Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller.
Can you help me with the question, because I was not able to hear very... why they have to return to Cuba when they have a good service here?
Yeah, they will say like if somebody is performing very well and the country has requested that they stay for extra year,
extend on the stay.
Why
the Cuban government would send somebody, a new person?
Well, this is not the Cuban government. I want to say this. This is the authorities of the health ministry in Cuba. And this is part of the program. This is part of the plan that we do. I always ask, because sometimes I receive those requests. Okay, let these people stay 1 year more, but this is part of the plan that we do. And they explain to me, this is not people that we don't need. This is people that we send abroad, but because of you need it, because at the same time we need it in Cuba. So what we do is a rotation. We send people abroad, they stay 2, 3 years, 4 years, and they come back. And another person goes abroad. So, and remember, also, I remember a year ago I received a note asking for 2 specialists to stay 2 more years. And when I asked to them, do you want to stay? They told me, I cannot stay. My family is waiting for me in Cuba. So there are different situations. But in the most of the times, it's about that this personnel is needed in Cuba too. So in order to send someone abroad, we need someone who replace that person also in Cuba. But as a matter of fact, some of them end their mission here, come back to Cuba and return to Dominica. But we cannot say, okay, you go for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, because they are away from home, they are away from their family, and at some point they need to go back. And again, some of them come to Dominica, but they have been in other countries before, and they are going to other countries after. Yeah. So this is part of a planification. We don't have all the doctors that we need in Cuba or in order to send it abroad. So it's part of the plan.
Finally, ambassadors, are you optimistic this embargo will end during our lifetime?
Yes. And yes.
Why?
Because we always fight despite all the difficult circumstances. If you see the life of Fidel, when Fidel went to Moncada, that he was defeated, but he never surrendered. He kept fighting, and everybody told him, "You are not going to succeed because you are facing a dictatorship that has the army, and this army has the support of the United States." And he said, "Okay, no problem. I'm going to keep fighting." And this history about when they came to Cuba in Granma in the boat, and they bring 82 men, and they have another defeat 3 days after they land in Cuba, and they reunite Fidel and Raúl. And he asked Raúl, "How many people do you have? How many guns do you have?" And they were like 12 men with 7 guns. And Fidel told Raúl, "Now we are going to win." And Raúl said, "You're crazy, because how are you going to defeat an army?" And they succeed. And when United States cut the diplomatic relations in 1961, and they invade Cuba in Playa Girón, Bay of Pigs, in 1961, everybody say they are going to collapse, And after Girón and after Bay of Pigs, some people say, "Oh, the problem is the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union is there." But the Soviet Union disappeared in 1991, and people say this is going to be 6 months. After that, they say the problem is Fidel. Well, Fidel was no longer in power in 2006, and he passed away in 2016. And the same people say, "Oh, the problem is Raúl." But Raúl is not the president of Cuba. So now, if you want to find an excuse, you are going to be able to find an excuse. But the reality is that the Cuban people is fighting for their dreams. They're fighting for what we have. Again, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. We can improve. We can do it better. But it's something that we have to decide. And right now is, again, very difficult, probably one of the most difficult situations that we have ever suffered. But I was very happy to see Dr. Dublin coming to Cuba and see that it's not a country that is, surrender. Nope. It's a country that is fighting despite all the difficult situation. For that reason, I say yes. And because nobody saw what nobody was able to say, okay, this is going to happen with President Obama. And President Obama came and said, okay, we're going to reestablish diplomatic relations. And we did it. We were not afraid to take that challenge. And we proved that we want relations with respect and goodwill, and we can accomplish a lot. So I am sure that there is more people in the United States that believe in the same ideas, that we are neighbors and we can be better. We can have better relationships.
How many assassination attempts Fidel survived?
According to one number, just one from CIA and other U.S. agencies, 638 attempts.
Assassination attempts. Wow.
Assassinations attempts.
Imagine.
638.
And he survived all.
and Burkina Faso, number increasing, you know.
Increasing. Okay, ambassadors, it was really a pleasure.
I just want to give a quick view. I'm an eternal optimist, Warwick, and the embargo may not be lifted in our lifetime, but I'm confident that the support is increasing over the world, because you can see the amount of solidarity, the people willing to just go Cuba to help to bring things, but the restriction and the thing is, within the United States, the momentum is building. You can see the change in trend. You've seen it manifested. You've seen in the midterms. You've seen how the political landscape slowly drifting away. And I'm confident that with a new democratic change, with a new thing, things will change. Because you cannot just keep that 60 plus years. You just have a people to me, I think, any same thing with reparations, when people fought reparations, but so long slavery done while, and now we've seen that the reparations movement is gaining momentum. We're Ghana, where historically a resolution can be passed in UN to declare slavery as one of the worst crimes against humanity. I mean, I never thought of that, but it's real. So I figure at some time the embargo shall be lifted.
Okay, just want to thank you, ambassadors, for this wonderful exclusive. I really do hope, I will give you a final word. I really do hope that our viewers and listeners had they were edified tonight, because we tried to do that on the anniversary of Mono has done so much for humanity, so much for us in Dominica, so much for Caribbean people, as we celebrate the 100th birthday of the late Fidel Castro. My profile pic earlier today was the same picture with Nelson Mandela and Fidel.
Yes.
The final words, Dr. Damien Dublin, and then we'll end with Ambassador for
final words. Let me thank you, Ambassador Charles, for really responding to the call and putting that together. I mean, I was so amazed how simple idea. It was supposed to be like just a simple reporting of an event, and it just blossomed into so many dimensions, and the ambassador presence did help in shaping. I think it was important to reshape people's consciousness and thinking of Cuba. And I want to say I was in Cuba from the 8th to the 15th, and I can tell people that the Cuban people are not surrendering. I mean, I see people adapting. I see motorbikes converted, electric motorbikes converted into vans carrying 6 people. I mean, I see people finding ways. And one of them nights after the thing, they had a concert. 3 different bands playing. It was the real anniversary of Fidel. 3 different bands playing, and people were there. Stalls set up, food and drink, and people just free up. And midnight, some fireworks, and then when you think that is done, you hear in a conga, a group drumming, conga beat, and the crowd followed that. But I felt like, yes, that's the people that really understand that. Yeah, they're holding on.
Ambassador Frago, final words.
Yeah, thank you so much. I joined in my gratitude for this opportunity, and I will say Cuba is alive and fighting. But I will tell you, Cubans are famous for long speeches. I'm sorry, we love to talk, and I will tell you one story about Mandela. When Nelson Mandela passed away, there is a book that is The World as It Is, that it was written by one of the advisors of President Obama, Ben Rhodes, And he mentioned that he come to President Obama and say, "Oh, well, Nelson Mandela has passed away. You have to go to South Africa, but probably President Raúl Castro is going to be there. What are you going to do?" And President Obama say, "You know what? Cubans were in the right side of history during the times of the fight against the apartheid. We didn't. We were not in the right side of history." He say about the U.S. And this is saying now. For that reason, I really believe that we are going to see the end of the U.S. sanctions against my people, because we are defending rights and principles, and we are not going to surrender that, and we are in the right side of history. So we are going to see a better future. We are going to see a better world. We are fighting for that, and it's not only going to, and that is not going to be only good for the Cubans. It's going to be good for all the humanity and our brothers and sisters all around the world. Thank you so much.
Well said. Well said. Well
Ambassador Miguel Fraga, it was really a pleasure, Ambassador Dr. Damien Dubs, Dublin.
It was a pleasure.
Our producer, Dean Thomas and Oprah. We want to really say special thank you to all those who
my
were
deputy
tuned.
ambassador. It's my deputy ambassador, yes.
All those who were tuned to the special edition of Creole Heartbeat. We want to thank the acting PD, Milia Joseph Dennis, and also the acting manager, Mr. Dominic, and the manager himself, Mr. Cecil Joseph. This was an edition of Creole Heartbeat-Fidel Castro 100. On Wednesday, we will be having a different topic. It will be celebrating the life of a man who has done so much for Dominica's medical field, and that is Dr. Kevin Ferrara, from dream to reality. Leroy Waddick Charles, may God bless you, and may God bless Dominica.
Okay, bonsoir tout le monde.
Bonsoir.
Bro, that was tremendous.